Daily this morning. We move on and we see also what we have on the front page of Taifa Leo. Still the same splash, but this is all about Uhuru. Mzima Ruto, it says. This is what was on the front page of the Daily Nation. Rais Kenyatta mpuzilia mbali naibu wake kuhusu mwito wa kufanyika kwa kikao cha Jubilee. Also, the story continues on page 2. Mwili wa Kolimo wachomwa Nairobi. That is a story on page 2 also of Taifa Leo this morning. The Business Daily is holding this splash for us this morning. Beer, fuel, border prices to rise in new tax. KRA sends for gazettement this year's automatic increase in excise levy. And it says here that prices of fuel, alcohol, cigarettes and motorcycles are set to rise as the Kenya Revenue Authority moves to effect a 5.17% annual inflation tax adjustment on excise duty charged on the products. The tax increase promises more pain for consumers who are already feeling the pinch of high cost of basic food items following the failure of the long rains season. That is a story that you want to follow inside the Business Daily as well. And Bob's final journey, you can see a standalone picture here. That is Wamboi Kolimo, widow of former Safaricom CEO Bob Kolimo, leaving the Lee Funeral Home yesterday for his interment at Karioko Crematorium. Also, foreign national tops race to succeed Kolimo as ex-CEO takes acting role. The rest to succeed deceased Safaricom CEO Bob Kolimo gathered pace yesterday, with the board said to have settled on a foreign national to take over the helm of Kenya's most profitable company. The founder Safaricom boss Michael Joseph was named as the interim boss, as ICT Secretary Joe Musheru said. Appointment of the next chief executive is all up to the company's board of directors. And the story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. We have a sidebar story where Kanyoto's 10 billion shillings Rural land buyers face eviction. That story continues on page 4. Also looking on the ticket there, Ouko office faces ethnic audit query. Auditor General Edward Ouko has come under scrutiny after more than a third of new hirings at the audit office in the 8 years has been at the helm. He has been at the helm, I should say, were found to have been from his community. The story continues on page 5 of the Business Daily. Today's digit is 183,000. Bank loan accounts under new law. This story continues on page 12 and 13 of the Business Daily. All counties failed tendering test. None of the 47 counties followed the procurement and tender guidelines. A new regulatory report that reveals the missing link in the renewed push to tackle graft shows. You can follow this story on page 6. This was a pronouncement yesterday by the procurement board. You can follow the story on page 6. Also, 3 billion shillings coffee pay audit begins. Audit of more than 500 coffee societies has begun in readiness for distribution of 3 billion shillings sherry advance to farmers. This story also is tucked away on page 19 of the Business Daily this morning. So make sure you grab a copy for yourself. Let's cross over now to Tanzania and pick up the Citizen for you. This is what is holding on the front page of the Citizen. We are not here to kill off private firms, says Tasak. State-owned firm dismisses claims that it's being both the industry regulator and a clearing and forwarding agency with a broad mandate will make it virtually impossible for private players to survive. This story continues on page 2 of the Citizen in Tanzania. Also, Membe, he says Lissu's loss of Bunge seat unfortunate. Former Foreign Affairs Minister Bernard Membe yesterday termed as unfortunate the decision by the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Job Ndugai, to strip Singida East MP Tundu Lissu of his seat. Mr. Membe said he was surprised to see Mr. Ndugai announce that Mr. Lissu had lost his parliamentary seat. And this story continues on page 2 of the Citizen if you're waking up in Tanzania. Also, Dar water supply set to hit 95%. Dar es Salaam Water Sewerage Authority is optimistic about its plan to increase water distribution from 85% to 95% by next year. Abducted Kenyan resurfaces in Mombasa. This is a story that you want to follow on page 3 of the Citizen if you're waking up in Tanzania this morning. Let's see what is happening still in Tanzania. We have also Mwananchi, but I doubt if it's actually, there you go, it's corrupted a bit. So we'll jump it and just go over to Rwanda and pick the New Times and see what is happening in Rwanda. There is more progress to be made. This is what Kagame is saying. He says President Paul Kagame has advised the young people to always take the initiative in finding solutions to the problems affecting the communities in which they live, as well as improving themselves. Kagame made the appeal to the young generation yesterday at a press conference attended by local and international press as part of the activities for the 25th anniversary of Rwanda's liberation. Also, Rwandan scientists plan Cornea Bank. Rwandan scientists plan Cornea Bank. You can follow this story on page 5 of the New Times of Waking Up in Rwanda. And this also is a related picture of the splash. We can see President Kagame speaking during the news conference at the parliamentary buildings in Kimihurura yesterday. The president has warned Rwandans against being complacent because of past accomplishments. That is what we have on the front page of the New Times in Rwanda. Let's move on and to see what we have also in this week's The East African. And before I do that, I can show you also the editorial cartoons that we have today as well. This is what is in the People Daily according to Stano. And it's all about Huduma services in the country. Pay here. This is how it goes. Still, corruption is rampant, even with the Huduma services. This is what has been captured by Stano inside the People Daily this morning. And Gado has drawn for us this is what we have inside the Standard today. Bob Collymore was a leader with vision. And of course, all these tributes were being paid to him. Bob Collymore was a leader with a vision, a leader with humility. He was innovative, inspiring and transformational. He was resilient. But Wanjiku is asking, so why do we elect crooks, thugs and bozos in office every 5 years? Why do we elect crooks, thugs and bozos in office every 5 years if all these attributes of a leader, they're actually pegged in one man? Why can't we also look for these particular characters or characteristics, yes, from the leaders that we do elect? This is what has been captured here today in today's editorial cartoon by Gado. I want to show you also what the East African is holding this week. If you've not grabbed a copy, make sure you do that. This is what we have on the front page of the East African. It says out of memory. We'll try and do that again to see if we can capture that. The East African. And it's all about what is happening in Ethiopia. I'll try and tinker with it till I show you what it is. Yeah, there we go. I need to hold it then. All right, let me just do that so that you can see. I'll just try and work on it. Honeymoon is over for Abiy. It says the Ethiopian reformist leader is grappling with a rogue security sector and flawed federal system. You have the full report on page 8 and 9 of the East African this week. Trouble in Addis. Of course, we know about the foiled coup that was the week before last week, and is also what will be the basis of our discussion this morning, looking at the federal system in Ethiopia. How is it adversely affecting now the security therein? And of course, now this is what we have as a splash today. Honeymoon is over for Abiy. He needs now to grapple with, such system that based on ethnic fault lines, and now this particular uncertainty, or uncertainty I should say, in Ethiopia is happening as far as ethnic configuration is concerned. So what will happen as far as the leadership of Abiy is concerned? Our panelists will be here and they'll tell us about the history as well, where they began and how this system is not really working for Ethiopia. Some of them, they're feeling they are sidelined and marginalized, and even they want a secession in Ethiopia. So that will be the basis of our discussion as well. But this is how the East African looks this morning. I'll try and also just rectify that so that I don't lose the pictures as well, as you can see right now. But that is what you can actually get from the East African. I want also to hark back to history a bit. I hope this will work, because I can see now my touchscreen also is getting a bit temperamental. Just to take you back to 1963 and show you how the Daily Nation looked then. This is how, from, of course, our archives, Premier off to talks. The Prime Minister, Mr. Kenyatta, that was in 1964, July the 3rd, will be accompanied by 4 cabinet ministers when he leaves Nairobi by air for London tomorrow morning to attend the Commonwealth Prime Ministers Conference. The 4 ministers are the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Mr. Tom Mboya, the Minister for Finance, Mr. James Gishuru, the Minister for Education, Mr. Joseph Otiende, and the Minister for Health and Housing, Dr. Njoroge Mungai. The delegation will also include the Attorney General, Mr. Charles Njonjo, the Secretary to the Cabinet, Mr. Duncan Degwa, and the Permanent Secretary for External Affairs, Mr. Robert R.J. Oko. An official announcement said at the conclusion of the London conference, the Kenya delegation will fly to Cairo to take part in the conference of the Organization for African Unity, where they will be joined by the Minister of State for Pan-African Affairs, Mr. Mbiu Koinange, the Kenyan Ambassador to the United Nations, Mr. Burudi Nabwera, and the High Commissioner to Britain, Dr. J. Karanja, are also expected to join the Kenya delegation in Cairo. That is what the Daily Nation read way back in 1964. Also deported, he flies out. This is Assistant Commissioner of Police, that is Leslie Prigion, who was deported from Kenya last night despite a last-minute protest by the British High Commissioner, Sir Geoffrey D. Freitas, to get the deadline for his departure postponed. That is how the Daily Nation looked. Of course, this is way back then, where technology also, maybe it was at its advanced stage by then. But of course, looking at the current copy of the Daily Nation, this is just dramatically different from what we're seeing today. So this is how it looks today. State House not keen on Ruto's call for meeting. That is how the Daily Nation looks today, and that is a splash for you this morning. Right, we want to buckle down to a discussion this morning, but let's see what is happening on the international front as far as Libya security is concerned. Also, I will tell you of the Russia recent air show of maybe the military might as well. But an airstrike late on Tuesday hit a detention center for mainly African migrants in a suburb of the Libyan capital of Tripoli, killing at least 40 people and wounding 80. It is the highest publicly reported toll of an airstrike or shelling since Eastern forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar 3 months ago launched an offensive with ground troops and aircraft to take the capital held by the internationally recognized government. The conflict is part of chaos in the oil and gas producing nation since the NATO-backed overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Libya is a main departure point for migrants from Africa fleeing poverty and war and trying to reach Italy by boat, but many get picked up by the Libyan Coast Guard, supported by the European Union, which wants to stop migration. Thousands of migrants are held in government-run detention centers in western Libya, in what human rights groups and the United Nations say are often inhuman conditions.
لا فرق كله كان كتير حتى السودانيين ذات في السودانيين جو فكله يعني كان لابد نقعد بالقده فهذا انفجار انفجار كله هسه بس انه فضل 4 نفر اللي جينا منهم بس شكرا لك. إذن المشاهدين الكرام كما تشاهدون حاليا يتم انتشال.
And Russia has successfully launched new anti-craft missile according to Russian Defense Ministry. The test launch took place at Sari-Shagan range. Russian military representatives did not specify any additional information about the missile, but said the missile, identical to the one tested in Kazakhstan, are already in service with the aerospace forces of the country. That was happening in Russia. But we want just to buckle down to a discussion this morning, and we'll be focusing on security matters here in the country and also around the region and the entire world as well. A lot of the tension rising between US and Iran. Here, our neighbors, Ethiopia, also they're at the sharp edge of dilemma as far as the federal system is concerned. And we know of the attempted coup just that happened 2 weeks ago. But the question is rising about the federal system in Ethiopia, right? For almost 3 decades, Ethiopia's federal structures, that is enshrined in the country's 1994 constitution, has been defended by the ruling coalition, the Ethiopian People's Revolution Democratic Front. And it is not surprising that the front has been the system's prime advocate and defender and it oversaw the creation and implementation of the federal structure. Some of the country's opposition elites also support the system. They believe it helps promote group rights, granting Ethiopians the right of self-administration. But the federal structure has caused lots of problems for the country, and this is primarily because it is constituted along ethnic lines. This is problematic because Ethiopia has a population of more than 180 million people and more than 30 ethnic groups. The biggest groups are the Amhara and Oromo, and together they comprise more than 65% of the population. And of course, the picture you can see on the screen right now is of this slain security chief. This was when there was this attempted coup in Ethiopia 2 weeks ago. But now we want to just slice and dice this with our panelists this morning to try and take a keener look on what is happening in Ethiopia as far as the federal system is concerned. Is Ethiopia walking on a very thin ice floor? And I want to introduce our panelists to you this morning. If you joined us at the top of the hour, I had introduced to you Dr. Simeon Sungi. Dr. Simeon Sungi is a lecturer at USIU and is Associate Professor in Criminal Justice, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, also an advocate. We do have also Peter Kagwanja, who is the CEO of African Policy Institute, also Dr. Hassan Kanenja, Director at the Home Institute. We have with us also Kogi Omwere, who is a former Member of Parliament, and also he is a political activist, and Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who is a conflict and resolution expert. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. So we want to just buckle down to see what is happening in Ethiopia right now as far as the federal system is concerned. That is our topic, and we showed you also what was on the front page of the East African. I will go back there much later. But moving forward, for this particular country, because it is raising things that, you know, underneath they have been simmering for a while.
Why don't you allow us first to say something about what we saw in the papers? Just quickly.
Just quickly?
Yes.
All right, so you want to comment, because I know this is mostly political, especially on Wednesday, before we go to Ethiopia. Okay.
Just wish to comment, because some of us haven't, especially in regard to Colmo's passing on.
Or to Colimo's, at least I will give you a sporting chance to also give
and I want
your
to
condolences.
be very brief, just pass my condolences.
Fantastic. Right, let's begin then with you.
But also say that Colimo's death has been weighty, and like most of our deaths, although we are supposed to enjoy equality in death, again, I would like to say that he has done a very good job. But, you know, like the rest of us, even when we have done a good job, we must pass on when that time comes. Although I tend to think that we die every day. Every day you leave the bar is a minute you die. So death need not surprise us, because we are with it every day. The only thing I want to offer some criticism about Colmo is that he ran a company that was a monopoly, giving other companies that wanted to have a piece of the pie a very difficult time. And I hope Michael Joseph will rethink the strategy of Safaricom, so that more people can be let into that space. I think it is important that we enjoy economic democracy. Yes, that's really all I wanted. I saw a piece of news there about a foreigner taking over. I don't know.
Yeah, that is in the Business Daily. I think this is a consensus, according to maybe the board. I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion yet. And they're saying foreign national tops race to succeed Colimo as ex-CEO, takes acting role.
Yeah.
And it says the rest to succeed. This is Safaricom CEO Bob Colimo gathered pace yesterday with the board said to have settled on foreign national to take over the helm of Kenya's most profitable company.
I think it will be sad if a foreigner takes over from Colimo. Because if anything, Colimo proved to the world that even a black person can perform well as a CEO of a big company. In any case, if this is a Kenyan company, although it looks like it may not exactly be as Kenyan as I would like it to be, but if it's a Kenyan company, I think it's proper that a Kenyan is able to take over its management. Otherwise, when are we going to be economically independent?
Thank you very much. All right, let's hear from Peter Kagwanja.
Well, I would like to join Mheshimiwa Kwamwere in sending our condolences to Bob Colimo. It's good to see a man from the African race running one of the best companies in Africa and basically leading it to profit. Beyond that, I don't know whether you want us to delve into the subject of the day, which is Ethiopia.
Yeah, we will. After now, we get comments because now this has been, yes.
Let me just
pass your condolences.
Let me just say that's key. That's a key issue, and it was the headlines yesterday. I think it's a day after, so we need to basically condole with the family of Bob Colimo and tell them, well, their father was a great man, was a great Kenyan, I would say.
Right. Let's hear from Dr. Kanenje.
My prayers go out to the family and friends of Bob. I think he was doing a great job. Again, as Prof just mentioned, it's always refreshing to see a person of African descent actually successfully running an institution or an organization as such. But I think one thing we should also learn from or rather two things, is number one, we don't really have to be corrupt. We can be competent and just be content with whatever we're getting in our positions, because we've also seen now there's a lot of noise with regard to foreigners running our companies. But how well have we been running our own? We've literally been running them to the ground, or running parastatal to the ground. And so sometimes perhaps we should also have an introspection and see what is it we're actually doing wrong. And finally, the scourge of cancer in this country. I think we need to really pay attention. If someone such as him could just disappear, in a fortnight, perhaps we should also make more investment with regard to testing, screening, and stuff like that, because I think about 40,000 Kenyans are dying of cancer every year.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think we are putting enough investment and enough focus to it.
Right, thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Mustafa.
Yeah, Dibal, deep condolences to the family of Bob Collymore. I met him only once in my life, and the way he worked, the way he engaged and worked with communities endeared him to many. And my observation is what we see out there, newspapers, television screens, is most of the time the pictures that people remember you, the images that people will remember you with, are images that when you are with communities. I see him a lot with children, actually, around the country. Those are the images that are sticking, and that the corporate. What we learn from Bob is that the corporate community can play a huge role in the corporate social responsibility, and Safaricom did exactly that, and Bob Collymore was an epitome of that which helped communities.
Right. Let's hear also from Dr. Sungi.
Dibala, thank you for having us this morning, and I maybe hold hands with my panelist to say that Bob, I think, was a very visionary leader who had skills, but perhaps what he tried to do, as far as I understood, is youth empowerment. And I think he has had a huge contribution in that area. So my condolences to Safaricom, to his family, and to all the Kenyan people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, let's buckle down to our discussion this morning, and I was just showing you also what is on the front page of East Africa this week. It's all about this man. This is Abiy. And the problem question is the honeymoon over for Abiy? Right, it says, let me try and move this. I don't know why it's acting up this morning. That Ethiopian reformist leader is grappling with the rogue security sector and the flawed federal system. And that's what we want to probe this morning. Ethiopia and the federal system of governance as far as security is concerned. For the longest time, we know they've actually been just walking on an ice floor. But is this ice floor breaking right now? And we can see now the ethnic fault lines really coming to the fore. So let's just begin with you, Dr. Kanenje, on this. Do you think this federal system was flawed from the beginning?
Part of the creation of the ethnic federalist system was actually supposed to manage the ethnic diversity in Ethiopia in itself. Now, you mentioned that there are 30 ethnic groups, actually about 80 ethno-linguistic groups, and there are about 108 million Ethiopians. Now, it was meant to be managed under the circumstances of virtually, I would say, an authoritarian dictatorship. Now, the good intentions are not always followed by positive consequences. Abiy's liberal stance has opened the door to the wounds of the old hostilities, and now you have groups which are busy trying to compete for power. Now, of course, even with the kind of enthusiasm that we saw following his assumption of power, we knew he was going to face challenges. You have a status quo which never goes away silently or quietly. It always happens. You have that opening of the political space has allowed a lot more groups to actually start competing with each other, each other openly. In fact, since 2018, April, right now Ethiopia has about 3 million internally displaced people because of the clashes that actually came as a result of that. And I think these are the teething problems of any reform agenda, especially when it comes to political reform in a country as big and as populous as Ethiopia. Now, how he's going to manage this is going to determine actually whether he's going to be successful in his leadership of Ethiopia. The challenge, though, for all of us and for Ethiopians is anytime there is an attempt, for instance, to overthrow a sitting president who seems to have a good will, there is a tendency sometimes to move more towards authoritarianism in trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Now, we just hope that he does not move in that direction, but he strengthens Ethiopian institutions so that actually can move more towards a democratic dispensation. And that is what we need in the Horn of Africa. Otherwise, this was expected that there were going to be resistance. The status quo was going to fight back. Remember, for a very long time, it was ruled by, it was essentially a police state. But not to mention, this is the first time ever that an Oromo has actually been a prime minister in Ethiopia or has been a leader in Ethiopia. These are people since the time of Theodorus I, Menelik II, name it, Haile Selassie, they have never seen power. So you have groups, for instance, you realize that coup was being engineered from the Amhara region, who between the Amhara and the Tigray have dominated pretty much the political space in Ethiopia for much of its history. And so you have some of that resistance coming. Some of it is coming from the ruling party itself. And those divisions, of course, are expected as he tries to balance different issues in Ethiopia, because the moment you open up the political space, we have seen what happened also in this country in 1992. I think Koigi is here, perhaps he can also share some of the experiences. But the moment you open up the political space, sometimes you allow competition and conflict. It's expected, however, we hope that this gentleman is going to be able to manage it so Ethiopia can actually move towards democracy.
All right, Dr. Sugi, because I know since Abiy took office, of course, sentiments about the federal system has resurfaced, and even the parliament has formed a commission to, discuss and maybe also explore some of the challenges that is facing the federal system. And as I've mentioned before, that was bound to be a wrong-headed, setting the country or predicated on that particular system was wrong-headed from the beginning. Your point of view?
So, Dibal, I would probably take a different viewpoint here. I don't really think that the federal system in Ethiopia has a problem. I think the problem is with the political leaders in the country who are trying to immerse power and making sure that they control the government. So, as my colleague said, I think this was about to happen. The young prime minister was to be tested, and my hope again is that he doesn't take the authoritarian route and making sure that he immerses more power. He makes sure that the state oppresses individuals. And believe me, I think we've seen a lot of examples from other places. The citizens will rise up, and when that happens, I think he will be in trouble.
Koigi Omwere, of course, also history will bear us down as far as ethnicity is concerned. You've written a book as well, and I wanted also just to pick up the genocide in Kenya, the cause of negative ethnicity, if I may just take a keen look on that as well. And you can maybe weigh in as far as ethnicity is concerned and predicated on this federal system in Ethiopia.
Yeah, let me start by saying that I don't think that the problem in Ethiopia is just having a federal state. I think there is absolutely, there are federal states elsewhere that have done very well politically. And so the problem I don't think is federalism. I think the problem we have in Ethiopia is that we have a federal system that is built upon negative ethnicity as the ideology of the state. If you look at the political structures, the federal system in Ethiopia has, the ethnic federal system has split the country into almost 9 regions, which are all ethnic. You have the Oromia region, you have the Amhara, you have the Tigray,
yes,
you have Somalia region, You have Gabela region, which I was surprised to learn that it is peopled by people who are very close to the Luo, to the Luo in this country. You have the Afar region. And it is my belief that negative ethnicity is a very destructive ideology. Anything built on it is unlikely to succeed. And I'm surprised that with so much political experience by Ethiopian leaders, that they could have resorted to such an ideology. I mean, moving from one extreme end of violent communism, and then replacing that with an ethnic federal system and hoping to succeed. Anybody who has studied the ideology of negative ethnicity will know that it can only work negatively because it pits communities against one another, politically, economically, and socially and culturally. And it's unless a leadership of any country is ready to substitute negative ethnicity with nationalism, which actually also applies to our situation here, I believe that it will be very difficult to avoid conflict, because conflict is inherent in the ideology. And you cannot, I'm sure that if you asked Prime Minister Abe what he is trying to do, he will tell you that he is trying to unite the Ethiopian nation. But you cannot unite a nation on the basis or on the foundation of negative ethnicity. You have to declare war against negative ethnicity if you want to unite ethnically divided communities. But nobody seems to be doing that, because negative ethnicity, unfortunately, even as it wreaks havoc, it still promises communities salvation. That's why we vote here as communities rather than as individuals. And each time we go to elections, we are going into war with other communities. And then you ask people to come together, it's not possible. So I think that the problem in Ethiopia, which is also the problem that was in Rwanda, the problem that is in South Sudan, and in many other African countries, is negative ethnicity. We must root it out. If it's not rooted out, the problems will persist, and it will be very difficult to have a united Africa, or even a progressing Africa.
But when you talk about negative ethnicity, can we point it back to the federal system, because it created a system of winners and losers, that we have certain communities that are taken to be elites, and others are taken to be marginalized. And now this is what is actually creating the negative ethnicity. That we feel that why are you putting some privileges on yourselves and other people are feeling underprivileged?
I agree that when you have negative ethnicity at work, communities are pitted against one another. Even communities are discriminated against. And some communities, depending on their strength, will probably enjoy what other communities will find difficult to find.
Yes.
So what you are saying is that you cannot solve the problem, that it is possible to use negative ethnicity to solve the problem of ethnic discrimination. I believe that you cannot solve negative ethnicity with ethnic practice. It is very difficult. I believe that, like for instance, at the time when we were getting our independence, the ideology of the state was more or less, was more nationalism than negative ethnicity or tribalism. But we have since gone the way of negative ethnicity or tribalism. And where we have reached, we have come to think that it is possible to use negative ethnicity as a solution. That's why in Ethiopia they have ethnic regions, because they believe if you can set up, if you can give every community a state, then the complaints will cease to be. But the fact is that there are also national resources that must be shared. How do you share them unless you can agree that at the end of the day, even if you start as communities, you can actually become a nation. A nation that is united by, say, nationalism as the ideology of the state.
Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Mustafa.
Dibal, thank you. First of all, Abiy Ahmed is easily one of the most progressive leaders on the African continent today. Abiy inherited a state that is constructed along ethnic lines. Abiy took over a state that, based on the 1994 constitution that was brought to life by the late Meles Zenawi, looks actually very good on paper, and there's no problem at all in having a state like Ethiopia that is constructed on along the ethnic regions, or ethnic identity becoming a key component of that which people align or constellate around. The problem with Ethiopia, and this is what Abiy is has been facing and is having to fix, is that ethnic identity is actually used for very negative purposes. And that is what the problem Abiy is facing. So Ethiopia has been messed over the years. The way, well, right from the dictatorship, the Deg regime, and coming to the time of even Meles Zenawi, Haile Mariam, the level of human rights abuses that one sees in Ethiopia leaves one with no doubt that such a state cannot really go on like that for a very long time. And this is really why Desalegn had to actually resign. You have one or two ethnic, one quite a significant ethnic majority, the Amharas, and then an ethnic minority of Tigray, constitute about 6%, thinking that they're more superior than the other ethnic communities. And once you project that superiority, some kind of ethnic supremacists, in the same way that you see these white supremacists around, then the other ethnic communities are going to revolt against that. And Abiy himself being an Oromo, what the Oromos actually have been doing, which is something Abiy himself does not like, is that they say now we have Oromos, they have the power, and then they need to project the Oromo ethnic nationalism onto the central stage, because they have not had an Oromia president or prime minister since the formation of the state itself. And so Abiy is really walking a tightrope here. I believe that he will have to carry out significant changes in the government, and encourage Ethiopians to think about a state that is going to work. Poverty and illiteracy is a huge problem for Ethiopia. So to have this kind of rather elitist structure or construction of a state on a population that is largely illiterate and poor is very difficult. But Abiy means well. He is a good leader by all accounts. He has worked very hard inside and outside Ethiopia to put Ethiopia back on the map. It's still a long way for Abiy.
Right, let's hear from...
Can I ask a question before we go to the next? I just wanted to ask you a question.
Oh yeah, sure.
As to what role do you think nationalism is playing in the construction of the new Ethiopian state that is meant to be progressive and uniting the country?
As he is mulling over that, let's just hear from Peter Kagwanja, then we'll come back to Dr. Mustafa.
I think one can make a number of observations regarding Ethiopia, and I think our attempt also to address that question that Mheshimiwa Koigi has put on the table. First and foremost, let's observe that on a positive note, Ethiopia is the fastest growing economy globally, one of the fastest growing economies. And if you've been to Ethiopia, as I have been from the late 80s today, you see astronomical growth in that country. And I can tell you it's going to be the major power in this region. And as Kenyans and as East Africans, we need to begin to prepare for a deserving hegemon, in the sense that population-wise, it is the largest. Economy-wise, it is going to be the most powerful. Remember, the whole of our northern Kenya is lighted by Ethiopian electricity, which we bargained, perhaps the cheapest we have from any other part of the world. So it's good to start with that positive note. At the same time, obviously, Ethiopia is a huge dam. If it explodes or it bursts the seams, we are all drowned. So it's in our interest as a region to ensure that Ethiopia, in whatever way, in whatever means we can, we wish them well, and we help them where we can to stay together, because that is the reality in this region. The third point to observe is that Abiy himself is the closest you come to Africa's Obama. There has been hype around him as Oromo, but you do know that first he's a son of an Oromo Muslim, and a son of an Amhara Christian mother. That brings a very unique characteristic of the Ethiopian society. When they talk about socialists, they are not talking about followers of Marx or Lenin or Mao. They are really talking about people who tolerate each other in their neighborhood. So you celebrate your Christian Orthodox Christmas, and you celebrate the Ramadan and Eid equally. So they tolerate each other. But they have also gone through, going to Abiy as Africa's, the closest you get to Africa's Obama,
yes,
you also look at his own characteristics. At 42, he's an academician with a doctorate in the core subject is a leadership and also conflict resolution. He's also a military man who has fought and who was there when Rwanda exploded. He was a soldier in Rwanda in 1995 as a peacekeeper in Ethiopia. And he's also a man of intelligence. He comes from the background, the so-called the deep state. So he's not as vulnerable as people would like him to be seen. He's not vulnerable. He was also very close to Meles and the previous leadership. But as it were, transitions are very difficult moments for all countries, and they shake the system to the core. Meles himself had very difficult times imagining a united Ethiopia after the Civil War in 1991. And therefore, he geniusly came up with a federal system, which is very unique in itself. Ironically, it gave all the Ethiopian ethnic groups, 80 of them, the right to secede. And Eritrea seceded, actually, without Ethiopia raising a finger. And Ethiopia, by that action, lost its access to the ocean, which it had had for thousands of years, Asmara and other ports at the Red Sea. But that is the cost that Ethiopia paid. Now, federalism in Ethiopia is very different from the way we conceive it anywhere else in the world. Federalism was actually Ethiopia's savior. It was not the kind of ethnicization of things. Because at the time it came up, every region, every tribe was armed to the teeth. And by basically giving people the autonomy to decide their own things, Meles saved the Ethiopian state. So federalism actually saved Ethiopia. The big question is, with Abiy and his democratic reforms that is going on, what is the future of this kind of ethnic federalism? With now the consciousness that is beginning to come into Ethiopia, we are Oromos or we are Amharas, and now the coup that took place, and I'm sure we're going to get deeper into that. What is the future of democracy in Ethiopia? I'm afraid that the Oromia, what you could call the hardliners, if they take the better of Abiy and remove that Obama character in him, the unifier, the symbol of Ethiopian unity, and we get the Oromo ethnocracy, we are going to be in serious waters and trouble.
Okay. Right, what is a short break. But when we circle back as well, we want to see from these regions, we have 5 other regions that are made up mostly of minorities and are economically also underdeveloped, and they're administered by ethnic parties that aren't part of the ruling coalition. And they are known as partners. So we can see the way they are being segregated, so to speak, that you're not part of the ruling coalition, but actually you're partners, or you're the developing regions, so to speak. And we had recently the coalition announcing the possibility of including the partner parties from the 5 regions into the coalition. But as long as the federal region or design isn't rectified, that won't really change. So we want to really probe on this before we take of course, after we take a short break. So we'll begin on that particular note. I can see Koigi Omere raising your finger. You want to say something? Yeah. You're not done with this, yes, yeah. You're not,
And I have also,
you've got to answer the question. So a lot on the table as well.
Yeah.
So let's just also be mulling over this
once.
as we take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with that and more here on Standing on Guard, where we keep an eye on the enemy, also looking at, of course, on matter security around the region and the entire world as well.
By Realtors, integrity.
Hiyo ni private property. Awiti hiyo nakaa salon.
Kuja hapa, hakuna kitu nanunua hapa. Kuja. Awiti my girl. Uko tu na spirit ya kupiga studio. Unaona hiyo spirit? Beba unyo uende uoshe hiyo choo ing'are.
Take it. Relax.
I know I look amazing. It is my new hairdresser.
From a washer to a crusher, source all your construction requirements at the 22nd Build Expo Africa at KICC Nairobi from the 4th to the 6th of July 2019.
The baby was making some funny noise. The eyes were rolling. She had already turned to blue. The tongue was already black.
It sounds like something we should know, but we do not know.
It takes 6 minutes to lose a child's life when they choke.
Doing the first aid is to make sure that you're saving the life, but to also make sure that you don't make it worse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Health Diary, in association with Good Life Pharmacy.
We're all about ensuring you feel better and healthier, so you enjoy every moment with the ones closest to you. Good Life, we're all about you.
I will not buy anything fresh from the supermarkets.
With the rising in population and demand, people want to make quick money.
Ni makosa sana kama manager hivi akujagundue mnatupa nyama mnaleta hasara.
This product is also used by pharmaceutical agencies. It's also used by textile industries. They bleach the clothes with it.
Unasema ni ngapi?
Dawa sinaweza tosha kilo.
So we bought the chemical.
It has a lot of implications.
Jumia Anniversary Sale is live now. Amazing deals on your favorite brands. Get this Bro microwave for only $2,999 at 9 a.m. and Techno Camon 11 32GB for $11,499. Don't miss out. Sales last till the 14th of July. Jumia, the online shop you can trust.
If by any chance you find out that you have TB, you'll get the treatment for free from any hospital. All the tests are free. All the medications are free.
Don't wait till it's too late. TB
ETP is preventable, treatable, and curable. Imagine kuna Everton akicheza ball Kenya na 102. Regular tickets will be available from 1st of July. Tukutane Kasarani. SportPesa, make it count.
Welcome back. You're watching Standing on Guard here on NTVLive, where we continue with the conversation on matter security, and we're looking at the federal system in Ethiopia, where, of course, we know 2 weeks ago there was an attempted coup which was foiled by the government, and now people are questioning about the federal system in Ethiopia, and that's what we've been discussing with the panelists before we took a short break. And also, this was a leading story, or it is a leading story in East Africa this week, and questions are being asked about how also that will affect the country, especially when it comes to the Isiolo-Moyale Road and the Lapsset project. And this is bound to affect Turkana oil deposit, because when we get all of this, we need transport as well, and that will adversely affect the region. So ethnic nationalism is the PM's major hurdle here to pacify interest groups, and we are trying to dig deeper and see where this is leading. There are people who are feeling they're partners, you know, in a country where we are espousing nationalism and you're feeling like you are a partner, you're not part of a coalition. Why are we being segregated? And these are some of the simmering issues that now are bubbling underneath and are coming to the fore as far as Ethiopia is concerned. And this also is upsetting the apple cart as far as Abiy's leadership is concerned. Before we took a short break, I would promise also to continue with I saw Koigi Omwere raising his finger to just say something. Right.
Yeah, but I don't know
But you've really thrown me off. Now I've lost the sequence of how now our panelists are contributing.
That's okay, but
or maybe then I can say.
The discussions that we had here, first of all, I agree with what Mheshimiwa Koigi Omwere did ask that question, what is nationalism?
Yeah. Maybe I could say what I have to say, and then you respond to, to both if
That's fine.
And so he's not really answered your first question?
Not yet.
Why can't he answer the first question before you go to the next one?
Maybe he wants to answer the question.
Yeah, maybe I might.
So you want to ask yourself?
But because I was going to ask Professor Kagwanja a question, but maybe rather than ask the question, I could raise it in what I have to say.
Okay.
And then he can pick it up from there.
Okay.
And especially I have problems with what he said about, yes, Ethiopia is the fastest growing country. But this fastest growing country in the world, I think he said in the world.
In Africa?
No, he said in the world.
Among the fastest growing.
The fastest in the world.
In the world, yeah, which is okay. But this fastest growing country in the world is also divided. And it is in trouble as we are talking, out of this division. So you ask yourself, what is the problem? Why is Ethiopia divided? And my answer to that was that it's divided because of the ideology of negative ethnicity or tribalism. This is what is ailing Ethiopia, what is ailing South Sudan, what is ailing Kenya. It is the ideology that was responsible for genocide in Rwanda. It is the same problem that we have in Congo. So we have to, if we want to help Ethiopia, then we have to ask the question, why are they divided? If it is negative ethnicity, what is being done to fight it? Compare Ethiopia with Rwanda. In Rwanda, there is a very effective effort to solve the problem of negative ethnicity, to root it out from the schools, root it out from the working places, root it out from their politics. You cannot organize a party on ethnic basis and be allowed to. And everybody now accepts that Rwanda, other than doing well economically, is also doing very well politically, in the sense that they don't have this problem of negative ethnicity. Now, if you listen to Kagwanja, a country with more than one community cannot survive without ethnicity. And I'm surprised, because in this country, there was a time that we were known to be a very nationalistic. At the time of independence, as I don't know whether I said it in my first comment, at the time of independence, there was a big struggle between negative ethnicity that was being pushed for by the colonialists in order to divide and rule Africans and, if possible, stop independence. Well, at that time, nationalism did very well. Gradually, it had been eroded by negative ethnicity. And as we talk, negative ethnicity has actually disappeared. The closest I have come to it now is the professor here you talked about ethnic nationalism, or somebody talked about ethnic nationalism. Or it was you, Deba.
Yeah, it's from the East African.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes, yes.
And what I have not heard about ethnic nationalism before.
It's a new coinage.
That sounds like a new...
Sure.
No,
I think Professor...
it is not the main thing. You cannot have the two together.
You cannot have ethnic nationalism.
Dibao, just...
okay, just a moment.
Answer this question.
What I'm trying to say is that...
Koigi, I have my bell here. I'll be ringing now also to stop you.
To solve negative ethnicity,
yes,
you need nationalism. I have said that in Rwanda they are doing very well. Abiy will have to do the same thing in Ethiopia.
Thank you.
And it's not enough that he is a military man, because remember, military coups are undoing people's power in many other countries, not just Ethiopia.
Thank you.
And right now, in Ethiopia, you have a problem of both military dictatorship going together with negative ethnicity, which actually doubles the problem.
Thank you.
Rather than solving it.
Thank you. Mustafa, then we hear from Dr. Sungi as well. Dr. Kanenje.
Yeah, Mheshimiwa Wamwere has partly answered the question that he asked about nationalism. Let me add here for in the context of Ethiopia, and I bring in an example from outside Africa, a former Yugoslavia. The post-Cold War Yugoslavia was a mess. Ethiopia risks becoming or going today in the same direction that former Yugoslavia went after the end of the Cold War.
I agree.
Now, and this is the challenge, because Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia depended a lot in its position during the Cold War and aligning with the East, so it was a foreign power or ideology, not an internal ideology in Yugoslavia, that actually put it together and tore it apart. And Ethiopia could be moving in the same direction. The problem here, Dibali, is, and this is my own thinking, is the problem with negative ethnicity that Professor, or rather Mheshimiwa Koigi Wamwere is talking about, is brought about, and we've seen that this in so many African countries, is brought about by greed, that one dominant community, however small or large, wants to be a community, and members of that, the elite members of that community, want to use that tribe as a vehicle to amass power and financial or resources or wealth. Then the other communities will see.
I agree.
The other communities will, okay, this particular community, in this case it was the Tigrayan that did this, and we have to call what has happened in Ethiopia for what it is, amassed wealth and power by the elite within the Tigray community itself. And if this happens in Rwanda or in Kenya or in Tanzania or any others, the other communities are going to revolt, and they'll feel that they're being excluded, sidelined, marginalized in a state. So nationalism, yes, was very much alive and well in the 60s in Kenya, but that has kind of ebbed over the years because of this thinking, and politicians have done this country a great disservice to try and push communities and say alongside ethnic enterpriseship. So we have tribal entrepreneurs, whether it's a Kalenjin, Luo, Kikuyu, who actually look at their community members as the vote as a source of wealth and power, and not to serve them.
Right, let's hear from Dr. Sungi.
So is nationalism completely dead?
That's another
Does
question.
it have a role?
Thank you, Koigi. All right, Doctor.
So I'm trying to answer the
yeah,
question.
Yeah, you will.
Okay.
You know, if now you have this dialogue, then we'll have a conversation, please. Yeah? So let's just follow the sequence here, all right? Let's hear from Dr. Sungi.
Yes. So I think, so this is my view. I don't know how wrong I am, but I believe that widening the political tent is a success. It's healthy when it comes to politics. And we've had some successful cases. My own native Tanzania, you have seen that Tanzania has 123 ethnic groups, but there is less perception of marginalization or political neglect, even from the smaller ethnic groups. So we need to really find a way in widening this tent and allow this perception to be minimal. And you can actually see even in this country, there's beginning of these voices that, you know, there's a need to have this wider political tent to allow other individuals also to feel that they are part of the government. You know, it's human nature, I think. Even when Barack Obama became president of the United States, black people in the United States felt like, you know, now it's the opportunity for us to move from one place to another, economically, socially. But I don't know how much that was a success. So I think it's very important to allow people to be involved in governance. But I just want to make one observation. I think there has been...
Before you make your observation, because 123 ethnic groups in Tanzania, and over the years, I've never even known one tribe from Tanzania. Maybe because of my deficiency but where was this predicated on? Is it because of a spirit of ujamaa that was actually spirited by, you know, the founding fathers like Julius Nyerere?
So yeah, that's a good point. I think nationalism can be both positive and negative, and we should always avoid the negative nationalism. So I think the creation of the state, even when it was Tanganyika before it became Tanzania in 1964, there was a sense, I think Mwalimu Nyerere recognized that the first thing, the most important thing is to unify everyone, you know, and he used language as that tool, that mechanism to bring people together. And I think it worked, and we, you know, Tanzanians don't see themselves in their ethnic lens, but as a national, as a Tanzanian. So you wouldn't, when you ask someone, a Tanzanian, what tribe they are, they would probably not answer that question. Because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant where I come from. I am Tanzanian first. Yeah. Right. And I think that was also the idea in Ethiopia and in other countries. So nationalism is not really a bad thing. It's sometimes a good thing. Yeah. Yes.
But here in the country, we identify one another by, maybe I can call Hassan Khaneji, we Mluya, we Mkikuyu, we Musapere.
When you say that you are called Michael, somebody will ask, Michael who?
Michael who?
Yeah, that is Michael is not enough.
So they'll tell me, Michael is not your name.
Say
what is your real name?
What else you are, so that you can be properly placed.
Let's hear from Dr. Hassan Khaneji.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. You know, perhaps Dr. Sungi may share with us at the end of the session why the members of parliament are going crazy over this charlatan who is now in jail, called an MP. Remember? Jaguar?
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
oh, okay.
Just lots of silliness.
We're beating foreigners.
Yes, exactly.
You want to borrow on that, Sungi? I know maybe you'll have some reservations on it, but we'll discuss it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's true that you do not know any tribes in Tanzania, because you know, I think they have just as many Maasais as we do in Kenya.
Yes, apart from the Maasai.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's not really as pronounced as
pronounced.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know whether we're actually approaching it the right way, because we should not confuse the need to build a sense of national identity with nationalism. Nationalism, well, generally it's identification of one's own country and its interest, mostly to the detriment of other nations. Okay, yes, and you can look up in political science, sociology, whatever. So it is America first type of thing, you know.
That is nationalism.
Yeah, that is nationalism. Is America first.
What about the nationalism that brings the communities together? The one that we had around the time of independence, if you remember.
Yeah. And so Kenya was a bunch of nations that tried to build a state, and we're still in the process of trying to build a nation state, at least in the political science, sense of the word. We were different. There were Kikuyu nation, Luya nation, Luo nation, Maasai nation, but trying to build a nation state because somehow by accident of history, we were forced by colonialists somehow to be in one country. And so we have to find a way. And some of the things that we've used in building national identity is language. Tanzania has done that more successfully, sometimes ideology, sometimes so many other things. Israel has done that with a lot of success, actually, putting different disparate groupings from Europe and Middle East together, through language and other things. Now, I think going back now to a subject, the subject of the morning, part of the problem in Ethiopia is the inconsistencies within the federalist structure itself. There are about more than 80 ethno-linguistic groups in Ethiopia, and it was actually meant to help calm some of these potential fissures, especially after the war. But then there are only 9 regional assemblies. So it has created lots of ethnic minorities in these 9 other assemblies. Where do they go? Number 2, these groups are also dispersed all across these other 9 regional assemblies. So while we're talking about ethnic federalism based on ethnicity, is it really true? Because there are more than 80 and we only have 9. It's imagining we have 8 counties in Kenya based on ethnic groups or main ethnic groups, but then we have 40-something.
So it hasn't worked.
Yeah, so it becomes a challenge. But I think the reason, the thinking behind it was to try and save Ethiopia from itself. But I think as time has changed, and of course as the political space has opened up and reforms and what is going on, it's about time, I think, Ethiopia re-examines. Either it adapts, it modifies its system, or perhaps it assumes a different system and go back to look at its constitution. Because, obviously, of course, it is not working, and especially with this current president, who, as Professor said, is kind of the Obama of Africa, as we know.
You said that there are 80 communities.
Yes. Yeah, more, yeah,
only 9 are accommodated.
Yes. Yeah, 9 assemblies.
So why not have a nationalistic state that accommodates everybody and get rid of these communities?
Professor.
Professor, please.
I think, let me first start by thanking Mheshimiwa Koiki for pushing us to debate this, because this is really at the core of our challenges in Kenya and as elsewhere. And Ethiopia represents a very unique perspective of understanding how the whole concept of nationalism, as Mheshimiwa Koigi is trying to put it forward. First, to make the point that nationalism is negative. No, let me just say why I'm saying it. Because
nationalism is negative
in its origins, because it is equated with the chauvinism in the West. And what it did is it gave birth to ethnic nations. Britain, Yugoslavia was a good experiment in multi-ethnic,
Germany is an ethnic nation.
Yes, it's an ethnic nation.
France is an ethnic
yes.
nation.
So if you go to Denmark, Denmark is just 5.1 million people. Sweden is about 5.1 million people. And these are the Swedes. These are ethnic groups. So Africa embarked on an experiment that the world has never embarked on. And Ethiopia epitomizes that experiment into nationalism. First, nationalism has 3 compounds. And if you read George Padmore, basically the philosopher of our modern Africa, or Kwame Nkrumah, his student, or Julius Nyerere, who liked reading his work, you'll find that in Africa there are 3 competing nationalisms that we are dealing with and are not able to mediate. First is ethnic nationalism. I am a Kikuyu, he is a Luo, he is an Oromo, he is an Amhara. Second is the ethnic nation, the nationalism of the nation state, whereby you have many ethnic groups within one state trying to come up with a united state.
That is the nationalism we are talking about.
And that one was fueled by an external factor, which is liberation. The fact
why is liberation external?
No, because we united. We united in
Yeah,
order
but
to.
Let him finish his train of
We
thought.
united
Then we'll come to
in
you.
order to fight an external enemy. And when the enemy was gone, what was the glue to hold us together? Then in that case, you can compare that with Somalia. Somalia is one ethnic group in one territory, one religion, and one history. It's a perfect case of a nation state in that sense.
One ethnic group.
One ethnic group, one religion, one history, one people. But why are they divided? They are divided because they amplify clanism.
The clanism within the ethnic group.
As part of their ethnicity. Let me finish the third one.
Yeah, just a moment.
The third one and the most enduring, and the one that we have clung to, and the one that is very natural, is Pan-Africanism. And it's Pan-Africanism that gives birth to now what we are calling the nation state, the nationalism of the Kenyan people, the nationalism of the Tanzanian people. Look at our founding fathers, Nyerere, Nkrumah, Sekou Touré. All of them are first and foremost Pan-Africanists. And second, members of their nation. At the extreme, Nkrumah was able to liquidate Ghana in order to melt into a United States of Africa. That's why he ranks very high as that. And people like Amilcar Cabral in Cape Verde were literally saying that these nations we are liberating them basically to be part of the general Africa. They never saw themselves as coming up to stand on their own. So what is the point? The point is that in Ethiopia, they are now trying to grab. Remember, Ethiopia was the only country in Africa that was never colonized. Ethiopia was the only country that took part in the Bahrain Conference of Partitioning of Africa, because it was in the League of Nations, and it also joined the League of Nations. And therefore, its nationalism goes back into the past. And many countries like Jamaica and others have used Ethiopia as the rallying point of their own nationalism, that we are who we are because we are free. We are children of Judah. That is Rastafari nationalism as you know it.
With Emperor Haile Selassie.
Yes, Haile Selassie. Now, the point is that Ethiopia is imploding because as we talk about democratization, you begin to challenge dictatorship and authoritarianism. And all countries are imploding at the verge of challenging the hegemons that existed. The Amhara give Ethiopia their language. They give Ethiopia their culture. They give Ethiopia the heritage. And the Dag regime and succeeding regimes challenged that kind of system, the feudalism that existed before. And it is moving from feudalism to democracy that Ethiopia is grappling with. For us, we don't have to grapple with that problem of coming from feudalism because we didn't have a traditional dictatorship.
Yet you have the same problem. Yet we have the same problem.
Yeah, but the ethnicity analysis is different in that sense.
How different?
Because we're talking about...
We still hate each other. We still go for each other's throat.
We have to...
Have you forgotten that?
We have to move beyond eulogizing or kind of praising the so-called the Kenyan identity and other identity because these are invented. Kenya is older than me, is younger than me, if we go by Madaraka.
Okay.
So in other words, we have to commit to the idea that we are building nations. So Kenya is work in progress.
What are we
Tanzania
going to use
is
to
work
build
in
the
progress. The real thing that goes deep into the heritage is the ethnic nationalism, which is negative. I agree with you. It's very negative. And to defeat it,
but this is a compounding of words that is also a problem for Koigi.
Yeah.
He's wondering how we can have ethnic nationalism.
Yeah,
and this is a fairly new coinage for him as well. He's grappling with it. Yes.
What I'm trying to say, that it is possible to have, I will probably, to use his term, multi-ethnic nationalism.
Yeah.
It is possible to have people, even as they remain communities, who are also, who wear also the identity of their nationalism, like being Kenyan at the same time that I am Kikuyu. And let me give an example. When I was young, I do not remember ever thinking of myself as when I was thinking about our political problems, our independence. I never thought of myself as a Kikuyu. I always, and when I went to meetings, because I would go very far to hear Kenyatta, Jaramogi, Tom Mboya, and the others, I was not going to those rallies to listen to the Kikuyu leader called Kenyatta. And I cannot remember ever Kenyatta identifying himself as a Kikuyu leader. He always identified himself as a Kenyan leader, and if when he wanted to go outside of Kenya, he became an African leader. Now, when somebody, so you ask yourself, if it was possible then, and I remember during the independence elections, in Nakuru, where Kikuyus are in the majority, did not even take most of the seats. The people who were voted for were actually Luo politicians. I remember in my area, the senator became Wasonga Sijeo. In Nakuru town, it was Ochieng Oneko. And yet we had Kikuyus there. But Kikuyus decided to pick their Luos for their leaders because, first of all, these Luos were Kenyan leaders, not Luo leaders. And they had never identified themselves as such. So what I'm trying to say is that we already have had that nationalism. It's not the first time, as Kagwanja is trying to argue, that this is something we can now pick because we have not had. This is what we have always had. So why should we drop it in favor of negative ethnicity when we know that wherever negative ethnicity has applied, it has failed and it has caused mayhem? If we go to the question of Yugoslavia, Yugoslavians were a multiplicity of ethnic communities. They had to decide whether that is how they wanted to grow or would go the ethnic way. And at one point, they decided to go the ethnic way. They had ethnic, they had even they had a rotational, an ethnic rotational system that allowed communities to hold power, a community to hold power for, say, 2 years before handing it over to another ethnic leader. And before they knew, they were wondering whether they would ever be reached by the goodies. So they rebelled and went and they split. Because a Kosovo person would not wait forever to have a school in his area, merely because Assad happened to be the president at that particular moment.
And therefore there is no development in Kosovo.
That's right. So they went into war. Now they are asking themselves, how do we rebuild? Do we go to the ethnic status again, or do we unite? Because when we were divided, we fought. Now that, can we unite? Is it possible? Probably Kagwanja will say, it's not possible.
Thank you.
What we need now, no, that's the way I'm getting it. And I'm saying, because you are talking as if we have some ethnic identity that is so dear to us, that we will sacrifice nationalism for it.
All right, thank you.
No, but if that's not what we are saying, thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
All right,
that's how I understood it.
No. As also Kagwanja is guessing his answer.
And something else,
just a moment.
Just a second, so that it can also be considered together. Compare the situation we have in this country. I don't know what, where you have an identity card, which says that you are a Kikuyu or you are Luo. And the Rwandan situation where their identity cards only read Rwandan.
Thank you.
You cannot.
We'll extrapolate that. Of course.
Like Tutsi,
Thank
Rwandan.
You. We'll extrapolate
Hutu,
that to our current
Rwandan.
situation. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Thank you. Dr. Mustafa? Dr. Mustafa.
Yeah, Diba, the problem here, and Mheshimiwa Koigi talks about this. It's about resources.
Yes.
It's about the influence a community actually has. When you know, the Serbs, Croats, Kosovars, and the others, when they went to fight, it was about resources. And you know, one leader from one ethnic community decides now to take everything to that particular ethnic. It's about greed.
And it failed.
But let's compare this to Belgium. Belgium has various ethnic communities. They have the German, the French, the Dutch. There's a place called Wallowie. You know, they struggle with this, and what they've done is to actually allow them to develop their own region, some kind of an autonomy.
What do you mean they struggle with it?
No, they struggle. It's just that it doesn't appear. Switzerland. Do you know the president of Switzerland today? Switzerland is made up of French, Italians, Germans, but today you don't even know who the head of state in Swiss is, because they have transcended that ethnic identity, because what matters for them is who they are as Swiss, and this is what you're arguing about.
And how you provide.
And how you provide. So there is no poverty there. Being German or Italian or French in the Swiss context has not necessarily made you have more bread on your, table, as is the case in some of the African countries.
All right. Dr. Sungi, before we come to...
So which can distribute
yes, just a moment, Koigi.
Is the question.
It's the state.
It's the state.
Yeah,
state nationalism.
Right, Koigi, thank you.
Not ethnic nationalism.
Not ethnic nationalism.
All right, hold it, Koigi. Let's hear from Dr.
That
Hanenje.
I think is...
So we have, just back, because we want also to compare what is really happening in Ethiopia, because I think also when with the advent of devolution right now, I think many people are saying maybe we've also entrenched ethnicity with devolution, because there's no way now we can actually a governor who is a Kikuyu governing in Kisumu.
You cannot have a Kikuyu become governor in Mombasa.
That's what I'm saying, because people are saying you're not one of our own. Yeah. And we've seen people saying also some of the governors.
Where did we go wrong?
How do we get even our staff from other regions to come to work in the counties? That we should give the counties priority first. This is what actually we are tackling with. Even moving forward, we need to nip it at the bud. But the question is,
so
I was asking about the Sidamas and Walayatas in Ethiopia, who are feeling that they're partners. They're not part of a coalition. And they're saying, since now we're not feeling like we are part of this country, why can't we secede? And we've had these particular debates here with the Republican Council. We've had also the NTVLive, the Northern Frontiers as well.
Yes.
They want a secession as well. When we're talking about this, and we think as a country we're moving towards nationalism,
but it seems
but it seems that we're actually retrogressing somewhat. Where are we at?
Divao, you know, part of the challenge we had politically in this country is because of the perception, and it's not just a perception, but it's actually a reality, that much of the power was centralized within the national government. And there was a consensus that we needed to devolve this power to regional governments. Now, I absolutely do not think that 47 counties are viable. I think we have a bloated government. We can't afford it. We're a little bit too poor at this stage. But now, going forward, the concept and the philosophy behind devolution is a good thing. If, of course, we have to make certain provisions. So, for instance, some counties they have a lot of expertise, they have very high populations. Now, what are you going to do if, for instance, you cannot get employment across, the other county because you don't belong there? That is a kind of exclusivist politics that, is not going to be healthy. And then politicians, of course, are always going to use the county, the nationalism at the county level to try and exclude others. So that is something we seriously need to examine. And of course, we know about the debate that is going on with regard to looking at our constitution. Some people are opposed to it, mostly, I would say, for political reasons. But we need to do that. Most of you in this place, you know that what we had at Bomas is not what we ended up having anyway. What we have is terrible, is mediocre, and it's a corrupt constitution. We actually need to revisit it. It's not entirely wrong to have a federalist system. if we can be able to manage it properly, but also distribute resources in a way that is fair, but in a way that can also be accounted for. What percentage of what we're giving to counties today actually goes towards development when you look at it? Most of it is just looted and spent out there on useless foreign trips. So it's not essentially a wrong thing. Now, going to Ethiopia, you have these communities which are supposed to be partners.
Yes.
But perhaps they don't feel they're partners enough. Now, sometimes you can only accommodate so many people because government is only so big. Of course, Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. But its budget is still actually smaller than Kenya's. It's important for us to understand that. Yeah. You know, we are hitting like 3 trillion. That's 30 billion. Over $30 billion. You know, yeah. Theirs is slightly less than ours, at least at this stage. So they only have so many resources to be able to accommodate all these people. And as Prof said, any transitional country or society goes through these systems is going to require a balancing of certain acts, perhaps a re-examination of actually the current system in Ethiopia, because what worked in 1995 under pretty much an authoritarian regime until, of course, Abiy Ahmed came to power, is not likely to work just the same way. And Mheshimiwa here was a victim of the 80s and the 70s. What worked then could not work in the post-90s and post-2000s because Kenya has changed. And so you also need to change with the times. Now, Abiy Ahmed, we wish him well, but he's going to have to re-examine that. Now, I would not say that Ethiopia is going to break into, you know, it's not going to be balkanized into other countries, because I don't think whether the African Union, the United Nations, is ready to recognize a new country or a new state in Ethiopia. Yeah. Of course, politically it's already balkanized, but in terms of actualizing that, there will be recognition of Somaliland before there's actual recognition of anything else, which again is unlikely to happen. So I don't see that happening, but I see the conflict increasing. And the danger of implosion of that is because of the strategic positioning, the size, and the economy of Ethiopia, we are likely to bear the worst brunt of it in case things go bad. So it's not just in the interest of Abiy Ahmed to fix what is going on. It's the interest of regional governments such as Kenya. We are currently, of course, the regional hegemon, to actually assist in that process, that we can teach them some of the things, how we've been able to manage some of our problems. We've had a lot of serious issues. I think we know that. You know, what is it that we can share with them? What is it that we can use through IGAT and through African Union? And sometimes perhaps born in the United Nations. Of course, we should not always ask for foreigners for help. But what can we do to assist this regime to actually be able to stabilize Ethiopia? It does not mean it's going to be perfect. This was expected. We expected, and I think we've discussed in this show, what was likely to happen now that he has come to power. He shocked the system. And when he shocked the system, he tends to fight back. And how he's going to solve now this fight back, especially the kind of reaction that's coming, is going to determine the direction of Ethiopia.
All right. So, Dibal, let me just make a few points here. As social scientists argue that ethnicity and race has nothing inherent in itself. It's something that is socially constructed. So, right. See, I blame politicians because they take the easier route. So if I'm running for parliament and I stand and I say, you know, you, my people, are poor because you've been marginalized. I'm really addressing the emotions of my people, and it's the easier way. Rather than saying, you know, our situation is as this because we poorly manage our revenues and things like that. We have corruption and all these other things. So I think politicians are the ones who bring about these sentiments where people start seeing themselves as different from others. And actually there's nothing really inherent about that.
All politicians?
Well, a majority of them.
A
majority of them, especially in our African continent. They use the ethnic card to get votes, and it works. It has worked. I mean, we have cases as evidence for that. So I think if we deal with those types of people, then we can start recovering. I agree with what Mzee Koige is saying. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the founding of this state was not based on ethnic identity. It was more of nationalism.
But now is.
But now it is, and it's because of these politicians who I say are trying to get the easier way to get into power. But going back to Ethiopia, I think we have painted a not good picture about Ethiopia. But security-wise, I think Ethiopia has been very successful. When was the last time you heard there was a terrorist attack in Ethiopia?
Well, they have fought.
It's been a long. It's been a while.
Long time ago.
And they have a majority. They have a big population of Somalis. Than Somalia itself.
Yes, actually, Somalis have a region.
Correct.
That's the challenge.
Let her finish. Let her finish.
So I think though Ethiopians may have problems within, and they are working around trying to get along and things like that, but they've been very successful in fighting, threats that come from outside.
Right. Peter.
Let me start by assuring Mzee Koigi that first and foremost, I'm a true believer in Kenyan nationalism. And I am.
So it is actually there.
I'm a child.
We are together now.
I'm a child of Kenyan nationalism. Most of my uncles actually died for Kenya, not for the region or the tribe they came from.
So it's there.
But
we agree.
I am also a scholar. And as a scholar, you are a surgeon, and you have to dissect things with that sharpness of a scholar.
Yeah.
I lived in the US, and at that juncture, we would only hang on an identity called humanity. Because these are many races, not even ethnic groups.
True.
These are
many
races. And in a country like that one, if you read my writings around that time, they were all punctuated by the concept of humanity. Humanity, humanity. They said, then I moved on and went to live in South Africa from the 2000, and I saw two conflicting nationalisms. The one nationalism I could identify with President Thabo Mbeki at that time, which is pan-nationalism, which translates to pan-Africanism or pan-Arabism or pan-Slavism. All these pan-nationalisms are based on race. We are Africans. And Mbeki was challenged in parliament because he was in a country where the most powerful nationalism is Afrikaner nationalism. The nationalism of the white people who originated from Central Europe, Netherlands, and so on. And the Afrikaans believe that they're the true nationalists. And Mbeki actually wrote a poem and read it in the National Assembly and say you can read it online. It's called I Am an African. And he defined the African as the Chinese who came to South Africa. The African is the Afrikaner. The African is the Zulu. The African is the Xhosa. He goes on. Then I moved from there and lived in Ethiopia for 5 years with my family. And I saw nationalism. I was invited to take part in the 5th Federalism Conference called by Meles. And we debated this question. And I saw a completely new understanding of nationalism. Because the Ethiopians are nationalists. They believe in the Ethiopian state. And they speak, they speak one language. That man, Abiy, speaks all the languages. He speaks Tigrinya, he speaks Amhara, and he speaks Oromia. And in those languages, his preferred language of speaking and addressing in their meetings, they speak Amhara. That's their national language and the official language. So I saw people who have built a culture. It's only country in Africa that has a script. In other words, they can write in their own ways, not the Roman things that we use. But what is being challenged here is not ethnicity.
No, it's not.
They are not challenging ethnicity.
Negative
They
ethnicity.
are challenging not negative ethnicity, dictatorship.
Dictatorship.
The tyranny, yes, because the way it was the Solomonic dynasty constructed Ethiopia, it was hegemonic in the sense that the Oromia and others felt that they don't belong. So, in other words, Ethiopia is a quest for inclusivity in the political system. It's not a rebellion. It's a fight for inclusivity. That is when Isaias Afwerki was very quick to come into rapprochement. And when you now begin to look at the link now between Ethiopia and Eritrea, it is faster than the link between Ethiopia and any other nation.
But we thought Abiy is a stabilizing figure for Ethiopia right now.
Does
he have any hallmarks of a dictator?
Yes,
as it is right now.
That's what we are saying, that his challenge is one, he cannot, if he succumbs to Oromia ethnic nationalism, what Mheshimiwa Koigi is calling negative nationalism, like he has done, you see.
No, I have not talked about negative nationalism.
Negative ethnicity.
Yes.
Those are concepts. Negative ethnicity, because we are saying
gives birth to ethnic nationalism.
Ethnic nationalism and negative ethnicity.
We're really glossing over.
No,
this is a very scholarly talk.
Let's not
I don't want it to really go way over our views.
Let's bring it to security. What it means for
so
security.
So what we are saying in short, what we are saying in short is the tightrope which Dr. Haneje talked about, the tightrope that he is walking, Abiy is walking, is to remain an Ethiopian and not to succumb to temptations of ruling with an Oromo ethnocracy, whereby you coerce your kith and kin from your tribe and then think that you are establishing order in a country. You have established order based on ethnic dictatorship. And that is what Africa is struggling about.
Thank you.
When you mentioned Nyerere established order not on the basis of ethnic dictatorship, but on the basis of not ethnicity, but Pan-Africanism in Tanzania. We are all Africans. That's how he created Tanzania. Today, our democracy is having its demons. And these demons are, first, you mobilize your tribe, like it is a farm or an estate. Then you bring them to the market state. So you have the audacity and that moral high ground that to ask somebody else, what are you bringing onto the table?
Yes.
Because I am bringing my tribe. What are you bringing? It's such absurd and obnoxious.
Yeah. And that's the current state of play of politics as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I
No, because we're really stuck for time.
Come back this way?
Yeah. We'll come back. Let's just go because we are actually remaining with 4 minutes. We need to be winding up. Maybe you can get headline thoughts.
Winding up the show?
Yeah.
We just started. We just started the battle. We haven't even gone to Iran and Sudan.
I know we've really covered around this, but yeah, we need to be winding up.
All the places.
Yeah, let's hear headline thoughts also from Dr. Haneje.
As I think Professor just mentioned, negative ethnicity leads to negative
nationalism.
No, ethnic nationalism, which is actually dangerous for all countries, all societies. Now, I was wondering, because we were supposed to be talking about Sudan, and we have limited time, should we, or...
No, not yet. We don't have the time.
These are closing remarks?
Yes.
Oh, touchy. Anyway, my closing remarks would be, yesterday we had the news that since we're supposed to talk about Sudan, but we didn't, Kalonzo Musyoka, former vice president, has been appointed special envoy to Sudan. I think it's timely, and we should invest more efforts in these countries, in our near abroad. But at the same time, I've always made an argument that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can play a more important role. Not can play, it actually plays a more important role than it's accorded. And perhaps the budget, you can correct me, 2.5 billion is too little. We need to invest more in our diplomacy in the region to restore our place as Kenya in the region and in the world.
Right, thank you. Dr. Sungi.
Dibal, thank you for having me this morning. I'm naturally an optimistic person. I just think that Ethiopia is going through a transition, new leadership, and that's normal. It's normal in most countries. And I think the political stability will come back. But I think the Ethiopian case study and also now Sudan and many other places can teach us, teach other countries how to best navigate through those differences, and try to focus on making sure that the common wananchi is being developed, and that can make a difference in communities.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Mustafa.
Yeah, Dibal, Ethiopia takes us back to the whole issue of redefining security. What is security? And security has to be redefined in a shared sense that if Koigi Wamwere is vulnerable, then I'm going to be insecure. And so his vulnerability is a source of insecurity to me. And therefore, we need to take care of ourselves at the individual community levels and at the national levels. Professor Kagwanja talks about the example of South Africa and Ethiopia. The Africans bludgeoned the other communities, a small minority, apartheid, and it's the same thing that happened in Ethiopia. You have the rulers wanted to bludgeon the others, and that has caused massive suffering in those two countries.
Right, thank you. Finally, let's hear from Koigi Wamwere.
Yeah, I will be very brief. And what I want to end up with is just to, first of all, to raise the question of who is fueling this problem. Daktari has said that it is the politicians. I want to add that it is more the elite than the politicians. And politicians are a part of the elite, but it's generally the elite that have caused this problem because they are selfish, they are greedy, and they don't care about anybody else. The other thing I wanted to say is to emphasize is that the entire problem arises over the question of distribution of resources. How best can we distribute national resources to everyone, to every community? In Ethiopia, they probably thought ethnic federalism could. I believe that it cannot. Because once you divide a country into ethnic regions, those ethnic regions become enemies of the state. As Samora Machel said, in Mozambique, the tribe had eaten the state. And this is actually what has happened elsewhere in Africa. Now, to finish, I just want to say, I was looking at the question of the meeting that the DP had asked for being turned down. And all I want to say is that the marriage between the DP and Uhuru as the president is not working. And once a marriage is not working, what you do is dissolve it and have another marriage. This marriage is simply not working, and we are all suffering because of it. We are children of it. And yet, we are victims at the same time.
Thank you.
So call off this marriage. Let's have another one. Probably we will have better people in marriage.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, marriage is in turmoil. That is what we also have on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. You can actually grab a copy of that as well. But I want to thank our panelists this morning, and also thank Koigi Wamwere. We have Flavian who is saying here that Dibal, today you can take the rest from getting the show. Honorable Koigi can easily take your place. Yeah, so he's actually... Also, we have Nyamogi Kogni saying poor governance which ensures that the winner takes it all, which makes you or others feel sidelined from both national cake and the cake for the nation. Also, the greed of power to protect the ill-gotten wealth is a major contributor to the political situation in East Africa. We have also Beng Charlie saying negative ethnicity is a ban of the African continent. Also David Indak saying tribal chauvinism as well, like in Kenya. When will Kikuyus and Kalenjins ever support another Kenyan tribe for the presidency? We can learn from Tanzania. Omar Bond saying, and if we keep on going the way we are, and though I do not wish it on us, I very much doubt Kenya will escape the same fate in the next 4 years. And also, loyalties are split. We have to purposely kill tribes to create nation states. People must choose one, to be Kenyan or their tribe. And finally, we have Music Man saying, excellent discussions this morning. What are some of the things that can be done to foster unity, peace, growth in these diverse ethnic nations? Our constitution was supposed to tackle a lot of the said issues: inclusivity, resource distribution, and decentralization of power. Thank you for your contribution on social media. We really appreciate also you joining the discussion this morning and driving the show with us as well. You've been watching Standing on Guard, where we keep an eye on the enemy here on AM Live.
Anniversary sale is live now. Amazing deals on your favorite brands. Get this Bro microwave for only 2,999 at 9 a.m. and Techno Camon 11 32GB for 11,499. Don't miss out. Sales last till the 14th of July. Jumia, the online shop you can trust.
Top spot no mwanzo tu.
So much football.
It is a chance to enjoy Kenyan football.
It's crunch time for the Kenya Sevens rugby team. Why Formula One?
I'm interested in cars.
The speeds that those cars attain is crazy, but I'm supposed to be a fan.
Asante sana Kigogo, karibu, sijapata vizuri sana. Lugha gani hiyo ya Kenya? But good to see you there.
Some moments will challenge you.
Stock much?
Baby, women don't chase men. Babe.
Some moments will test you.
It's so funny.
Nothing, sweetheart. You know, you just never been that good with animals or children.
Some moments will enlighten you.
You know why I ride every morning? So I have the strength and wisdom to help those kids.
Would you know God's voice if He spoke to you?
Lavington United Sacco, a society that promotes unity and empowers you through mobilization of financial resources and services for your socio-economic well-being. Lavington United Sacco, moving forward together.
My name is Prasad Kare. I'm the Group Head Sales and Marketing for Tononoka Group. Tononoka started trading steel products 30 years ago. We have been partnered with Daily Nation for the period of years, and we felt the very good and reliability and the outreach. Most of our customers do go through and then they say, "Oh, we have seen your advertisement."
My name is Edwin Bakori, the CEO of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. As an institute, we are proud to be associated with the Daily Nation because as a public voice, we reach to the most interior part of this nation.
Daily Nation. The truth.
Renting a traditional office often requires a long-term lease and high rent. We are in Senegal to find out why so many entrepreneurs are increasingly turning to co-working spaces.
Are you planning to take a loan, or are you servicing one already? The problem is many citizens are becoming prisoners of this system.
And do you have any regrets? Like, would you change anything?
That's how we wanted our ideal magical wedding to look like.
Taste imeweza na bei imeweza. Streetwise 2 is now at 350 shillings.
Wow.
2 pieces of original recipe or hot and crispy chicken and regular chips. It's finger licking good.
NTV, turning on your world.
Good morning, everybody. Now, as you can tell, I'm dressed a little different today. I'm in my workout gear, and that's because we're about to talk about CrossFit. For about, I want to say 2 months now, I have been taking part in the CrossFit workout community and world, and it's been so fascinating to me. And I thought I probably should invite some of you guys to come, probably join the CrossFit family. Now I'm here at CrossFit Kwetu, and it's in Gigiri, and we're about to speak to Wilson Wanjohi, who is, listen to this, he was the first level 1 CrossFit trainer in East Africa. Wilson!
I see you again.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I've come a little bit earlier than our usual workout sessions, but it's because I find CrossFit so fascinating that I want to try and help unpack it for those who don't really understand it. Because for me, I feel like I'm still peeling off the layers and trying to understand what is CrossFit.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I guess let's start with that. What's CrossFit?
So the word to word definition of CrossFit is constantly varied, high intensity functional movement. Constantly varied. So we always vary our workouts.
Constantly varied.
High intensity functional movements.
Okay.
So movements that are multi-joint. Movements that you'll find you're doing outside the gym.
Yeah.
And we incorporate, especially for the main workouts, movements that have the greatest ability to show power.
Okay.
So they can move large loads, long distances fast. That's a mouthful, but...
Yeah. So if we were to break it down even further, from how I understand it, you sort of pick workouts and things from different parts of the active and sports world. So that's why we have these rings from the gymnastics world. We have rowing, we have running.
Yeah. So it's gymnastics, cardio, and weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting.
Okay.
And now under gymnastics, so that's why you have, like you said, the gymnastics rings.
Yeah.
So anything to do with your body weight.
Right.
Which is a lot of skill, self-mastery. Like you'll see we're about to do a muscle up, you'll see that.
Yeah.
We have, so in cardio it could be rowing.
We'll
row in a while,
you
running.
Make us run.
Yeah. Or skip, all those things.
Yeah.
And then weightlifting, the 2 Olympic lifts, cleans and snatches.
Yeah.
So clean is the heaviest load, the most powerful lift in the world is a clean. You'd use a clean. And the snatch, the fastest lift in the world.
Okay.
But also now under weightlifting, we'll still do disciplines of powerlifting, so bench press, squat, everything that has weight in it, but in a functional manner though.
Yeah. And I love that you step into different worlds and you take that, but the idea is that one, you're trying to push yourself to see how heavy or how fast you can go in a short amount of time. That's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah. So what sets CrossFit apart, I'd say, is intensity. So
right.
you see it's in the definition of it's doing something as hard and as fast.
And as quick as possible.
Yeah.
That's
and
why.
For time. So you always check the clock. Every workout you have to check the clock.
That's good, because I've also noted that in as much as we can spend an hour here, it's only about maybe 12-15 minutes that's super intense, and the rest is just warming up your muscles, your body, stretching,
So
and preparing.
Generally we'll have a warm-up, then a skill, so learning a double under or a muscle up. Anything skill related. And then the main workout. That's why you find 20 minutes there by the end. But the intensity makes you feel as if it's...
No, it feels like it's the end of the world. It feels like you've just made me work out for... I mean, literally at the end, I'm usually on the floor. I can't pick myself up.
Or again, a warm-up, a strength part, and then the Metcon. It depends.
Okay. All right. So you were the first to become accredited as a CrossFit trainer, level 1 CrossFit trainer.
Before there was any...
You were the first here, at least in this region. So how did you get to know about the CrossFit world, and how did you even, get that license?
I used to work in a certain gym very close to where we are right now. It was in a hotel. And that hotel used to have loads of military guys, especially the special forces, from abroad coming to sleep there. And I'd see the things they were doing, and there are things that I'd never seen. So like a keeping handstand push-up or a muscle up, I'd never seen.
Handstand push-up is like...
So like where I'd kick up into a handstand, and then I lower my head to the ground. And So and then the intensity set, it made the whole difference. So we started, of course, working out together, and then I asked them, what is this thing you guys do? And at the time I was so bored with just being, like an instructor, and I was about to go do my boot camp cert. Because to me, boot camp was more outdoor, it was more functional, But then they told me, this is called CrossFit. There's a journal, CrossFit Journal online. It's free. You can download it. Just have a look. Just go through it.
Yeah.
And I just loved it from there. And I think it was the next year after I had met them that I went for my level 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
You became accredited.
But because it's fitness. You see, CrossFit gives you fitness. CrossFit prepares you for, so fitness demands that you should be ready for anything and everything.
Yeah.
It's not partitioned. It's not like today I'm going to do this part and this part.
Yeah.
Then I'll run on Saturday.
Right.
Or I'll do, and then that's partitioned, that's segmented fitness.
So it's sort of like today's legs, tomorrow's back. We don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
There are days we'll do that, but like intentionally.
Okay.
Like say today we are doing front squats heavy, 5 sets of 6, that's it.
Yeah.
But the days we'll mix them up.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is done in normal gyms, in other gyms also, but there's skills you're learning.
Yeah.
You're continually challenging yourself. It's a group setup. There's a camaraderie behind it. It's like a family feeling.
I love, and I feel that. In fact, now that you talked about family, let's go meet the CrossFit family. Come on.
They're here.
Hey guys. Oh, look at you acting, sitting nicely, quietly, like good students. All right, so I just want for everyone to introduce themselves and sort of say why you started CrossFit and what it's been like. I'm going to start with you, Sam.
My name is Sam.
Yeah.
I started CrossFit. Why did I start CrossFit? Was I was looking for something that was different to the normal gym and needed to change a few things in my life with my training style. And yeah, I had the advantage of coming to CrossFit, and Wilson has been instrumental in helping me tailor CrossFit to basically my needs.
Right.
So yeah, that's when I started and why and how.
When did you say?
So 2 years is basically since when I started first coming to CrossFit, but I haven't really been coming that often until of late.
Okay. And I think what's really interesting is that you get to work so closely with Wilson because he has to tailor it to your needs because, 25 years ago, is it?
Yeah.
That you
so 25 years ago, I had a car accident. I broke my back.
Yeah.
So then I was paralyzed from the waist down. And as a result, I can't use my lower limbs, so I can just do everything I do with my arms.
Yeah.
And then inherently that has movements that I can't do that other people are doing.
Right.
So we have to sort of figure it out. So it's called adaptive CrossFit. And yeah, we've been working on it and slowly getting better at it. Yeah, building.
And I mean, I think there's so much about what you do in your story that's so fascinating. But another really cool part is that you're a rally race car driver.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've started rallying again.
Yeah.
So I've done that for 10 years and now just, again, got back into that, doing a slightly different sort of rallying. It's called Rally Raid.
Okay.
So it's like the Dakar style rallying, and hopefully the dream one day is to go to Dakar.
Oh, nice.
So let's see. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Tats.
Yeah, my name's Tatiana, and I started CrossFit before I got pregnant with Olive, so it's like about 4 years ago.
That's your firstborn.
Past 5.5 months.
Okay. Yeah. And you have two babies.
Two babies.
Who under 2?
Yeah, one's 6 months and one's 2 years.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Lucia?
Yeah, my name is Lucia Rochti. I started CrossFit 1.5 years ago, and I started it due to my swimming career. I am a competitive swimmer, and yeah, through my experience, I've gained a lot of strength, endurance, and yeah.
Do you find that it's helped you with your swimming?
It has definitely
directly impacted.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
So is it that how is that so? I mean, I imagine swimming is different from and the muscles that are worked out in swimming are different from CrossFit, or is it the same?
No, it's actually the same.
Okay.
Like I do a lot with my core, my arms and legs. So if I work out here and do pull-ups and everything, it really helps me with my techniques.
Yeah.
And yeah, just endurance in general.
You're like an award-winning, one of the best swimmers, in the country. Cool.
Yeah.
16. Tiff?
Okay, so yeah, my name is Tiffany. I started doing CrossFit, but not at the box, 3 months ago with Wilson, working personally, just doing one-to-ones, and it was I'd had a child, she's now 3, and just wanted to build core strength really and get fit. I couldn't do sit-ups, I couldn't do handstands, so those things were what I wanted to work on. And yeah, when I achieved those goals with Wilson, he told me to try CrossFit. So then this is now my 2nd month at CrossFit.
Second month?
Second month.
But I mean, Tiff, I follow you on Instagram, and those things that you do with such ease, it's insane to me that you just started.
It's all Wilson.
Yeah. But before, Saul Wilson, everybody. But before then, were you active at all?
So I'm an ex-swimmer. I'm a swimming coach. So yeah, I've always been active. But after having kids, I sort of tailed off. I didn't do much exercise for like a year and a half. To get back into it, it was really to build core strength and get fitness. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mariah.
Hi. My name is Mariah. Well, before I did CrossFit, I was like doing off and on gym. So I was in school. So I used to go to the gym every day, try to do some bench press, everything. But it was really boring for me. Like, I find it boring because like you're doing repetitive stuff and there's nothing new. So
this is normal gym now.
This is because it changes every day.
Right.
I like variant stuff where it keeps me going and I'm always challenging myself.
Okay. Wait, so you said that the gym is what you found repetitive, but CrossFit is interesting because it's varied.
Yeah, it's varied. Like, gym got boring, very interesting. Then I started this and I really started enjoying myself. Like, first of all, my mobility wasn't that great, but you know, you work on it, you get there, and you see the movements and you're just like, yeah, okay, I want to do that.
Yeah. I've seen you do some crazy things with like pull-ups and like the rings and down to like...
Oh yeah, don't forget I started off trying to do them, but I wasn't able to, but I came here, trained every day. Wilson actually helped me to get my first bar muscle up.
Oh, hey, fist bump.
Yeah, he taught me most of my gymnastics, so kipping, what. Now, literally, we challenge each other every day on mostly gymnastic stuff.
Oh, cool. And last but not least, we've got Raju.
My name is Raju. I started CrossFit about a year and a half back.
Okay.
Just due to my weight and my health conditions, which have really improved. My body fat has gone down.
Yeah.
And well, it's not like any other gym.
Yeah.
It's addictive. So
I
coaches, we really enjoy doing whatever we do here. That's what I can say.
Wilson, I mean, I think he paid you. You can tell it. Because everyone's just like, if it wasn't for Wilson, my life would... No, but you know what? My name is Sharon, and I started CrossFit almost 2 months ago now, and I have to say I resonate with everything that you're saying. It's about like pushing yourself, and it's great when you have someone who's also pushing you in those moments where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And it's good to see the kind of varied people who come to CrossFit, and the fact that it's like a family, and there's something so beautiful about this whole workout space that isn't like most gyms, so I like that. Yeah, so are we ready to work out? Yes! Inside, are you really ready, or are you just saying it for we're ready. All right, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break, but when we come back, we'll get to see what it's like to actually work out with Wilson. We'll see. We'll be back in a moment.
Why can't you go home and tell the woman that you love that you still love her? She seems so far away from me.
Do you realize this makes you a thief? A good-for-nothing, low-life thief stealing from your wife. Why did you steal it?
What's going on?
A thief!
I said shut up, so you better shut up.
From a washer to a crusher, source all your construction requirements at the 22nd Build Expo Africa at KICC Nairobi from the 4th to the 6th of July 2019.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Avoid sleeping outside or in an area where mosquitoes are likely to breed. If you are sleeping in a tent, ensure it's not damaged and keep it closed at all times.
Kila usiku ninasisitiza kutumia Baygon Multi-Insect Killer kwa kinga ya mbu sugu kabla ya kulala. Hivyo, ninajua kuwa wapendwa wangu watalala wakiwa wamekingwa. Baygon ni vizuri kuwa sugu dhidi ya mbu wanaoweza kuwa na malaria. SC Johnson, a family company.
We, ninajeri.
Ndeta hizo viatu zangu za nyama.
Hey paps, is how?
Wewe vijana, nini baya na nyinyi leo? Mnataka nini? Na mtu asiniitisha pesa.
Actually, we're planning to use our savings to go to Dubs. You guys, do you still have your passport?
Passport ya kazi gani? Kwenda Dubai unahitaji passport ya nini?
Come on dad. It's Dubs, as in Dubai, not Dubai.
Nyina Jerry, hebu kuja uone vijana wako wamekuwa na wazimu. Hadi Dubai, na pesa ya nani?
Actually, we've been saving all our pocket money for this. With Bonfire Adventures, you can lipa pole pole. Lipa pole pole with Bonfire Adventures, the down payment only 3,000 Kenya shillings. Go to the Mara, Mombasa with SGR from 13,000. Dubai, Mauritius, Seychelles, Thailand, Egypt and Zanzibar from 60,000.
Governments have not been known to be good in business. Actually, government has no business being in business.
The government wanted a clear way on how to share out public entities
to enhance their product.